Jambor Zordan Himi Jan Zoner Molam Jambor Ngajada Bakaradar Gonsanto Shirmarto Tombatic Janla Kisham Sar Umashar or Terni Jangams Jawartik Shamla Jimmy Banzo Jala Zoran the Tuyagum Gonjatoban Bor Shenjil Gonjatoban Bor Shenjil
The unsurpassed, the profound, and ever wonderful Dharma is difficulty encountering hundreds of millions of eons. I now see it and hear it, receive it and uphold it. I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the supreme bodhicitta. So we'll get into the 6th chapter today. Have I finished reading the previous chapters? I did.
Tandar the Kushan to Sawa Sawa Chimbo Sai Nyambu, Chochin Jitenji, come time to some Jimmy Chibi, Zimjerdon, Shambado, Seva, Talaf Tenner, Dictukanum, the Samson Nam, Jerry 30 number of Jabanam, Laftocham, Nobru Shah, War, Nyan Lendi Beach, Dom Nyan Lendi Beach is a church of Shanch somewhat, Give Chimbo, Namda, Ladan, Fladan, Nojin, La Sobe, Taver Dia Chimbo, Laftenem, Dorten, the strong Shade. Samson Tamchi Jimyan Lendi Pidea Topro Shago, Tirkutok Sumbana, Jarki Nand of Johnson, Wakunda Yamba Jivshavi, keep a thermojet, Jordan de Landerkut, sort. Tander Jordan de Jivshanchu San Wasai Nyambo Shanchu San Wasai Nyambo, some Jimmy Chipis, Zimtranam Laptochang Bramzana, Jordan de Jimao, Tiji Tami Simpson, La Pambi Chet, Shanchu San Wasai Nyambo, Lada Minroanam, La Pambi. Pambram Zapi, Pambam Zapi, Pambram Zapi, Pam, Pambam Zapi, Pambram Zapi, Pambar, Pambram Zapi, Jimji Nam Jak Sultana, Ladon, Clodon, Lavler Devjeton, Maomi, Semjan Namji, Sanji Song. Kibe Shur Lang de Nyamselimber and Yuru, the Nijundan de Gipshan Sawakunda Yambatan, Kur Devjela, Derkut of Gatsarto, Lubber Nyunda, Niki Namla, Shansu Sawasai Nyambul, had a mean roar Namla Pambar, Zapi, Sonum Le Shonwir, number of Ba, Nam Dipir Kone, Tamber Shaw, the Nipshan Sawakunduzum, Kunda Yambe, Sorwa, Luxo, Jondan de Dr. Nam, Sambrundoto. Jordan de Gikartsarva, Shansu Sanwakanda Yamba, Mao Jitin de Rikiwa Marikio Mokanjik, Shansu Sanwa, Sai, Nyambu, Santune, Tela, Tarmo Jarvagam, Toprashibagam, Chamsarvagam, Taprashipi, Kanzanam, Karva Samchi, Dukpu, Le, Davarand, Dukpalinda. Taprashipi, Kanzanam, Karva Samchi, Dukpale. Karvasam Chir Digbal in Davranjo. Digbal in Davranjero, Kundayamba, Rikio, Marikio, Mokanjiki, Shanchusan, Sai Nyambu, Shkutsundis of Shibagam, Evris of Shibagam, Yana Satan, Dodan, Gigdan, Stan, Gigdan, Stan, Serdan, Ngurdan, Zandan, Chaksu Givjana. Tela Lanchik Tawagam, Chirlanchim Sarwakan Lan Giward, some Saxam Dionesertin, Ansung on Nes of Thunderstorm Manjur. Catchel Sonum Zapertina, Mir the Kian, Gerbonit the Kirne, T. Hornam Yonson, Yambra Manjuro, Young, Vidmit Ganjik, Runga, Lila Sunne, Laxum Tagbe, Shansu Wasai, Nyambu. Prishkadan, Sadan, Dodan, Jigdan, Sidan, Serdan, Ngardan, Zandan, Chaksu Division Bishkandra, Jark, La, Nyerevision, the Chapa Meperti, Takta Metodan, Pudan, Zatonda, Kudan, Kuchindan, Jamsandan, Vadandan, Ngardan, Rambochi, La Sojim, Choba Marshina, we make it Kiwi Tamar Kirjan, Kara Jarton Chapchernams with Meki Jandel, Gartier Mangerna, Dilli Lember, Muchogo, so Muchogo. Deum Shambadan Mulumji Tobla Tenni Chit with Meki Livlan and Joan Jembano Martoso. Der Terchans was saying Yambun Chobamber was stopped on Sonum Sabir Topki, Kara Jarton Chapchakavart with Meki Lember Mangero, Yankanda Yamba with Mekanjika Rangas Mardik Badan, Nad Mawala Sunni, Shansu Sanwa saying Yambun, Jarkim Dunda. Samba Tarbe Jens am Girang la Tir Tawagam, Chum Sarven of Kara Jartung, Karatung Chak Varda, Zug Pusum Sobanya, Kivringero, Zug Merdik with Miki, Runga Lilas, Masamber, Shans of Sanwa Sai Nyambum, Chopan Barashina, Lila Masamber, Shans of Sanwa Sai Mum, Chopan Barashina, Kara Jartung Shiva Chak Givarta, Tir Taberter, Jaru Chemodam, Sunmoda, Yana Lombod. Kimdak soğuk, rikçin gibi mesela kiyenim, zizlikten pazım soğuklardan dambarın görü.
Now let us continue with the Ksitigarbha Sutra. My voice is rather low today. It's because I'm not feeling very well nowadays. Is there ways to make my voice louder? No? Okay, I will try my best to speak up. Today we are going to learn about the chapter 6, that is Tathagata's praises. The Tathagata's praises of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Before the actual class, again, I'm going to talk about the miraculous stories of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's image. Once there was a lady, her last name is Zan, and she lives around the southern part of China, that's Yangzhou. And her mother died. Once she dreamt of her mother, and the mother told her, saying that when I was alive and I had lots of arrogance and lots of greed, and because of that I was reborn in hungry ghost realm. And I was reborn as a hungry ghost's child, and my mother, who's a hungry ghost, would devour me right away after I was born, because she's really hungry. And then I would take birth again as her child, and then again and again. So she would die right after being born, and then die, and then being born again, and then die again. Kept on being devoured by her own mother, the hungry ghost mother. But there is one exception, that is the 24th of each month, and that is because on that day Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva would manifest as a monk, and that monk would be offering meals to the hungry ghost, and therefore the hungry ghost mother won't devour the child. And Zan's mother Over there, she was suffering a lot. When all the hungry ghosts were receiving the offering from the Shramana, and the Shramana would say that I am Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and you all should generate bodhicitta. And after hearing that, then lots of hungry ghosts would generate bodhicitta, but Zan's mother couldn't because she suffers so much. And then she, in the dream, told Zan, saying that you should save me by building a statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. After she woke up from that dream, the daughter woke up from the dream, she used all the wealth that her mother accumulated when she was alive and then made a Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva statue. And then later on, she dreamt of her mother again. She dreamt that her body radiated light and she was liberated from the lower realm. And she said that because of your virtuous deeds, I was able to be liberated, and later on we will be able to be reborn at the same place in front and listen to the Dharma teaching from Maitreya Bodhisattva. After she woke up, she was very touched, and then she kept on making offering to the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva statue as well as pay reverence to him. Also, she also let the other beings to come and pay reverence to the statue. So, when we have some family members, relatives that's already deceased, I think it's very difficult to know where they are in the 6 realms. But if you have conditions, if you have some conditions to print the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva Sutra as well as making the image or statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and then dedicate merit to the deceased family member and relatives, then they will definitely receive the corresponding blessings, because the blessings from 3 jewels and Ksitigarbha is inconceivable, and the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's aspiration is inconceivable. So the deceased family members or the relatives, I think it's really wonderful if you can have a generous mind and then make the image or statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and then rededicate the merit to them. That would be really wonderful. What is not good, though, is that if you don't have the corresponding conditions, if you don't have enough wealth to build the statue or to do those virtuous deeds, I think it is the best not to fundraise, especially if you fundraise for yourself. I see that nowadays lots of Buddhists would use those virtuous deeds as excuses, and then they would propagate their own activities. And then later, it's very difficult to see where they've used the fundraising money. They don't have clear accounting on the books and so on. It's not good. Of course, I acknowledge that you may have the good aspiration, you may have the good intention, but the action and the way that you carry out this kind of virtuous action may not be appropriate. We have to watch out our conduct. We have to make sure that our conduct is proper to both the Sangha as well as that to make sure that our conduct is in accordance to the law. The precepts of the Buddhism precepts are also considered as law as well. Let it be lay practitioner precepts or the or the monastic precepts. Sometimes people don't really care about those precepts, don't care about those laws, and sometimes they don't care if their actions are appropriate. I think it's the best not to fundraise, because there are times people don't really want to offer you money, don't want to give money, but then they feel like they have to because they're under pressure. And then they offer money with a sense of unwillingness. This is really not good. So we have to be very careful with whatever we do. Do not use excuses, especially do not excuses with the title of or with the name of your teacher, saying that so-and-so teacher, so-and-so Lama is building the retreat house, or so-and-so teacher is building a shrine hall and need money. In fact, a lot of times those lamas don't even know that you're fundraising for him. In some ways, you're using your lama's name as a commodity, and you're trading that commodity. This is not appropriate. In the history of Tibet, in the history of Tibet, there is something similar to what is happening nowadays. They would use the name of India, because at that time, the Tibetans would feel that Indians are. They feel that, in fact, the Indian monks are more superior. Therefore, they want to make offerings to them. So that they would use the name of Indian monks and then fundraise around. If one want to use the name or excuses of a monastery or of the lamas, it is definitely not good to lie to others with their names. If you really have to use the names, or if you indeed are trying to fundraise for certain monasteries or for certain lamas, at least they should know. Or if you are you're part of that Sangha, if you have the authority to do so, then you can do that. But if the teacher doesn't know, if the monastery doesn't know, but you're just doing this as a personal activity, individual's activity, this is not appropriate. Do not use others' title and others' name for your own benefit. There are people nowadays, they would say that, unless, of course, if certain teacher tells you that, well, I really want to build a large statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, but I don't have enough money. Could you please help me to fundraise? Then, of course, in that way, that's fine. There are teachers who would give you direct orders or direct requests, or sometimes subtle requests. Then you can, of course, carry out that action. But if you don't have any authorization from that teacher, and then you started fundraising for statues and so on, the teacher had no idea. And nowadays, unfortunately, many people would pretend that they are the close disciple of certain teachers, of certain lamas, and then they would fundraising publicly, and then they would say that, look, my teacher sent me this private message, he called me personally, and I'm very close to him, therefore you should trust me and give me money to do so and so. This is really not appropriate, unless if the teacher really wants to do it and the teacher has sent a voice message or a direct letter or so on to give that authorization, then that's a different story. But if there's nothing like that, it's really not appropriate to use others' name and then do fundraising for your personal gain. I think people nowadays are very materialistic. Nowadays, they would seize the opportunity of my classes, because on the class I would talk about the merit of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva statue, and then there are people who want to seize this opportunity and get money from others, and they would say that, oh, look, I'm going to fundraise for Kimpo because he wants to build a Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's image, and then he would say that, or if I were to give teaching on the Diamond Sutra, and they would say that, oh, I have the same Diamond Sutra book, do you want to buy it? I think it's really not the best way to gain wealth. This is really not the best way to gain wealth. There are people who would say that, oh, this object has been blessed by certain teacher, this object has been blessed by certain monastery. In fact, there's nothing like that. This is really, this kind of method of gaining money through Dharma is really not good. Of course, it's wonderful to practice virtuous deeds, but we definitely need to uptake appropriate method.
就是合力的这样的方法。然后刚才那个就是这个恶贵啊，就是恶贵，就是说是他的这个，他就变成这个恶贵之子的话，那就经常这个受，就母亲就是吞噬他的这个痛苦啊，就是这个是不仅是刚才讲的这个公案当中也是这样讲，而且汉地的这个法院注令当中呢，就是也有这种。
From the previous story, we've learned that the mother, who was reborn as a hungry ghost, to a hungry ghost mother, and she would be devoured by the hungry ghost mother. And this kind of hungry ghost stories are included in the jewel forest of Dharma gardens in mainland. There was this one story. Once Madhgalayana met a hungry ghost on the way, and the hungry ghost told him that he's suffering with great pain. He would give birth, she's suffering from great pain. She would give birth to 5 children during the day, and she would devour all of them. And since she's not fulfilled, in the evening she would give birth to another 5 children and devour all of them. So she suffers greatly from that. There are animals who would devour their offsprings as well. But as human beings, it's very difficult for us to even fathom such kind of cruelty and such kind of pain. But the beings' karma are so very different. The beings who suffer with such great pain with the blessings and the power of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, they also have opportunity to attain liberation as well. So let's get to chapter 6, the Tathagata's praises. At that time, the world-honored one's entire body radiated tremendous amounts of light. Sometimes there's light radiating from the fingertip, from the head, and from the toes, from the top half of the body. So sometimes the world honored one would radiate light from different parts of his body. And that light illuminating countless Buddhist worlds, numbering in all the sands in trillions of Ganges rivers. Then he proclaimed in a clear voice, audible to all Buddha's worlds, saying, all Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas. So that voice from the world honored one is melodious and very clear, and it spreads all the way to all the Buddha's worlds. So he's saying that all the Buddha's all the Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, 8 classes of supernatural beings, men and ghosts, hear my praises of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva Mahasattva. So listen to my praises. In the worlds of the 10 directions, he has manifested unimaginable power of majesty and compassion. So he praises Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, saying that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva manifested unimaginable power of majesty and compassion in the worlds of the 10 directions. So he's saying that it is not that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is really only beautiful or who's very good at jumping and he can jump up to so-and-so meter and so-and-so heights, or very good at playing basketball or so on. It is not that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva won different types of competition in a worldly sense, or he had won some gold or silver medal. The Buddha did not praise Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva for those worldly accomplishments. Rather, he praised the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva for his compassion and for the numbers of the sentient beings that he's liberated. When we look at masters nowadays, I think we should also praise the disciples in such a way, instead of praising them on how successful they are in terms of earning money and gaining wealth, or this person's very good in a worldly sense, or in a successful way personally. We should definitely praise others in terms of how they've benefited other beings. So how the ability is of benefiting sentient beings, this is how we should praise the disciples or other people. And then the Buddha said that after I enter into nirvana, all of you, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, 8 classes of supernatural beings and others, must render extensive assistance to protect this sutra. So on one hand, the Buddha praised Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva for his unimaginable, unfathomable spirit and strength of liberating sentient beings. On the other hand, he requested the 8 classes of supernatural beings and others to protect and to extend the assistance to protect this sutra, thereby allowing all sentient beings to achieve nirvana themselves. Throughout the life of the Buddha, he strives to liberate the sentient beings. Therefore, protecting the sutra or practicing great compassion, those are the ways of helping sentient beings or liberating sentient beings. According to the Bequeathed Sutra, translated by Kumara Jiva, it talks about how the Buddha, during his first turning of the Dharma wheel, he liberated the 5 bhikshus, such as Kodana, and then during the second Dharma wheel turning and the third turning of the Dharma wheel, and then at the end he liberated the sentient being. The last one is a Shupati. After that, it in fact concluded the lifelong teaching and lifelong action of benefiting sentient beings. And then after that, the Buddha gave the last teaching to his disciples. Part of the last teachings is Patimokkha Sutra. He talked about how Patimokkha vow is the root of all merit, and he said that after I enter into parinirvana, then the Patimokkha vow would be your teacher, would be your guide. If the Patimokkha vow is still within this world, then it is just like when I am still abiding in this world as well. Therefore, as the disciple, as the Buddha, then we should know what the teachings the Buddha had give to the sentient beings, and what he taught at the beginning, and what his request is after he passed into parinirvana. And one of those is to protect the sutra, so that the sutra will keep propagating in the future times. This is the hope that the Buddha has extended to all of us. Therefore, the Bequeathed Sutra is the last teaching from the Buddha. I'm not sure if you've studied this. If you've never studied this, I think we should read into it and study it, because we really need to know when the Buddha was giving teaching in this world, when he was turning the Dharma wheel in this world and then manifest his parinirvana, what has he taught throughout his life? The teaching he gave was mainly towards the monastic group. Therefore, the beginning of the Bequeathed Sutra was rather conservative, and it talks more about the Patimokkha vow according to the Theravada tradition. It talks about how all of us should take Patimokkha vow, how to take precepts as our teacher, and we should be content with less desire, and living in this world, we should try to avoid all the longing for a sense of trading or a sense of calculation, such as business and so on. So we should really pay attention to that teaching. And then at that time, a bodhisattva in the assembly named Samatha Vipula, with his palms joined together, respectfully asked the Buddha, "Today I witnessed the world-honored one's sincere praise of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva for having such inconceivable great divine power and virtue. For the benefit of sentient beings in the future, in the Dark Age, I wish the world-honored one would explain how Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva benefited humans, devas, and the associated causes and fruitions." So I wish the world-honored one would explain in this way. Could you please explain the two aspects? One is cause and the other is fruition. So all of the 8 classes of supernatural beings and future sentient beings will honor the Buddha's teachings, and they will practice accordingly. In the Dharma assembly, Samanta Vipula Bodhisattva requested for the beings in the future times. He requested the Buddha to turn the wheel of Dharma. At that time, the world honored one told Samanta Vipula Bodhisattva and the 4 groups of Buddha's followers, saying, "Listen closely, listen closely. I shall briefly explain how humans and devas can attain great merit and blessings through the beneficial practice provided by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva." So, over here, he said that, okay, I will explain how the teachings will benefit the sentient beings, and I will explain it briefly, not going to be extensive about it, but briefly. And Samanta Vipula Bodhisattva responded, "World honored one, we would be delighted to listen. So please tell us soon. We would love to listen to it. We really want to listen to your teaching." We love to listen to the teaching about the merit of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. And then the Buddha told Samanta Vipula Bodhisattva, in the worlds of the future, there may be virtuous men or women who, upon hearing the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva Mahasattva, joined their palms, either both of them or even just holding up one of their palms. In the words of my perfect teacher, we talked about different ways of folding palms. In Anjali, including like little lockets and different ways. So if they join their hands, their palms to pay respect or say praises, in fact, the virtuous beings with lots of wisdom, they would do all kinds of virtuous actions in their daily life, such as pay respect, say praises, or bow in respect, or admire his deeds, compassion, or other qualities. To admire with great devotion, then those kind of merit. For those who do so shall be relieved of sins which would cause them to suffer for 30 kalpas. So such kind of sins would cause them to suffer for 30 kalpas would be pacified. Now we can see the practices provided by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva indeed is a great way of making confession. The negative karma we've accumulated from our body, speech, and mind can be pacified. The negative karma accumulated by body can be pacified by folding our palms, and negative deeds accumulated by the speech can be pacified by saying praises. So, by admiring the deeds and compassion or other qualities of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva will pacify our negative deeds of mind. We need, in fact, whenever we accumulate negative karma, we accumulate negative karma through our 3 gates, the body, speech, and mind. We can also then accumulate our merits, virtuous merits, through the 3 gates as well. In various ways, we can in various ways we can pacify our various negative deeds, because we use our body to create negative as well as positive karma. Therefore, if we were to adapt positive actions in our body, then it would pacify the negative karma. Same as speech and mind. Therefore, over here it states that upon listening to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name, if we can just do simple virtuous actions, it could pacify our negative deeds for kalpas. Then let's think about the negative karmas we've created throughout time, even in this lifetime. There are people who have a restaurant that kills live animals, or they've created negative speech karma by slandering others. But if they can wholeheartedly pay respect and praise Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, this kind of negative karmas can be pacified, can be purified. That's said by the Buddha himself. And the Buddha is omniscient to all the cause and effects. Therefore, through that statement, we can see that the blessings of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is indeed immeasurable, is indeed really great. Upon saying this kind of merits, we have this kind of hope to be eventually liberated. I remember there was this one story that once a monastic was giving a teaching on cause and fruition to a group of people, and he said that if you can stand on the peak of the mountain and chant the money mantra, then all the water and mountain and grass and trees can hear it, and they're all chanting it. And then you will be able to create millions and even billions folds of merit. And he said that, however, the way we create negative karma is also quite severe. By eating even one bowl of tsampa, he must be from Tibet, so because they're eating tsampa. He said that because the farmers, they would kill lots of little insects. Therefore, when you're eating tsampa, there is no difference between eating the bugs and eating the tsampa. And then an old woman in the audience, she said that, well, I'm completely confused. What do you mean? Whenever you talk about meritorious actions, I feel very hopeful. I can be liberated very soon. But when you talk about negative deeds, I feel I'm really in danger, because don't even talk about me. You eat tsampa every day, then there's no way for you to get liberated either. You're in grave danger as well. So we have great negative as well as positive karmas. And then he said that Samanta Vipula, in the worlds of the future, there may be virtuous men or women who would paint the images of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, or use clay, marble, gold, silver, bronze, or iron to make his statue. Nowadays, we use all different types of materials, such as the marbles, or sometimes as we use liqueur or resin, plastic, all different kinds of material. And some of them we would put different materials together and even wrap around with some clothing. And some of the materials, including gold, silver, if you were to use different materials to make Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's statue, or even paintings such as tanka, pictures, and digital painting nowadays are really great too. Whatever material it may be, if you were to make the image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, then and then gaze respectfully upon it and pay homage to it, these people shall be reborn into 33 heavens for hundreds of times consecutively and shall never fall into the realms of suffering. So you never fall into the realms of suffering. This kind of, I think this kind of affirmation is really needed for us. According to liberation teaching by Karmalamba, he said that if one were to study the six Bardo teachings for 3 or 5 times, they will not be reborn in the lower realms. At that time, I felt really happy because I've listened to the six Bardo's teaching from Ponsugo Rinpoche for 3 times, and therefore I think I have great hope of not be reborn into the 3 lower realms. Well, it is in fact quite necessary for us to have certainty not to be reborn in lower realms. There are people who have great faith. They have great faith that brings tears into their eyes, and especially if they see the beautiful statue and images of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, they have lots of faith, lots of heartfelt feelings when they see the statue. On the other hand, there are people, however, maybe because they don't have faith, whenever they see the statues such as Taras or Ksitigarbha or Buddha statue, they don't want to fold their hands, they don't want to prostrate. There are lots of people who have such kind of arrogance. I think as Buddhists, we should definitely let go of all of our arrogance and pay respect to the statue in the shrine hall or in front of the image. Even more, if you're not of any religious practitioners, you should also do that, to let go of your arrogance. And then he said that even after exhausting the blessings for rebirth in the heavens, they will be reborn as kings in the human realm and still be able to enjoy great blessings. There are people nowadays, in fact, I think for some people it would be better not to become a king, because after they become a king, they would create lots of suffer and lots of chaos to the world. But there are, of course, kings after they reborn in this world, and then they become Dharmarajas, they become king of Dharmas. They bring happiness and peace and merit to their citizens. They bring lots of prosperity to the kingdom, especially for the kings with belief, with faith. They would build monasteries, they would build centers, they would make offering to the Sangha, they pay homage and offering to the Buddha's image, and they would reign their kingdom with great compassion. All the actions would be for the people, for the citizens, rather than harming others for selfish needs, which would lead to harm to oneself as well as others. So we can see that there are kings who has already lost that kind of blessing, because though they have the high status and lots of power, but indeed they bring chaos and fear and sometimes war and famine. Because if the decision of the great kings are not wise, that could definitely bring lots of harm to the country. This is just a natural law.
就是刚才那个就是这种祈祷地藏菩萨的，或者说是对地藏菩萨像的
previously when we said that
即便是他来到人间呢，就是也不会
the kings, if or the kind of person who pays reverence and respects the statues of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, they would not bring harm to oneself and the country that he would be reigning. That's why it's really important to pay reverence to the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's image. In the National Museum of France, there is a short Ksitigarbha Sutra. Some said that it's discovered from Dunhuang. Some said it's true, it's real, or some said it's false. I don't really know, therefore I'm not going to make any comment. Some of those words are not very similar to, or some of the words that's used in that sutra, in that version, is a bit different than the words that's used in Buddhism. More similar to the traditional way of using, or the common way of using. So some people would say, for example, that says that if one were to build the statues of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and if one were to write the sutra or chant the name of the Bodhisattva, then that person could be reborn in the Pure Land, or go to be reborn into different heavens and different Pure Lands and so on. Anyhow, the merit is indeed really great. According to the sutra on the merits of building the noble image, it says that if one were to build the noble images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, even if it's as small as a grain of rice, this person will not be reborn in lower realms, but that person would be able to gain immeasurable merits. The 8 billions of kalpas of negative deeds can be purified, as well as gaining 11 types of merits. There are people nowadays who are more academic leaning. They do not really pay great attention to building images of the Buddha. I think this is more related to their academic background. I think the scholars should let go of their arrogance of what they already know. They should really invest the time to study and do more research. On the other hand, for people who are not from an academic background, they have lots of faith when it comes to chanting the mantras and talking about the merit of it and making image. But when it's time to talk about the theory, the deeper theory of Buddhism, they just doze off, and that's wrong as well. We definitely need to study in both aspects. The absolute as well as relative are like a pair of wings. This is stated by Shantarakshita. Indeed, relative and absolute are like a pair of wings. If you were to have this pair of wings, you'll be able to fly freely in the space. However, if you only have one of them, such as relative, then you won't be able to proceed further on the path. Because if you don't understand emptiness and selflessness, if you don't have that view, then accumulating the relative virtue would only lead you to be reborn in the higher realms. If you were to neglect the relative truth or the relative virtuous deeds, and you only have a beautiful goal ahead of you, maybe that goal is really beautiful, and you have such a wonderful aspiration, but as a relative, as we still live in this relative world, as relative practitioners, in this way you'll never be able to to arrive at your beautiful goal. Because if you don't practice any of the virtuous deeds, it doesn't lead you to that beautiful final enlightenment. Over here, it talks about the merit of making the image or statues of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. There are people who really don't pay much attention or not interested in it at all. Patrul Rinpoche specifically talked about the merit of creating the images and so on of the three jewels. I heard some of the Khenpos over here are giving teachings on this in Tibetan language. I thought about translating this teaching because that teaching was quoted when I was giving the teaching on Lotus Sutra. As a practitioner, I think we definitely need to pay reverence to the three jewels, especially pay reverence in front of the statues of Buddha. I once met a practitioner who practiced for over 10 years. He said he practiced upon emptiness every day. I said, do you chant mantra? I said, no. Do you generate bodhicitta? No. Do you have a Buddha statue? No. But he read over the ornaments of Madhyamika for many times. He really likes that absolute truth and really likes the teaching on one taste. He placed great importance on Madhyamika, but he doesn't practice on anything else, such as chanting or pay reverence and all of those. He doesn't have interest in any of them. So it's hard to say if that's good or not, but I think we need to we need to definitely practice more into the relative level as well. Some of the monastics, they don't know how to do the consecration for the statues. I think the ones who understand or who knows how to do it, you should teach others. It's really not that hard. There are the mantras or some of the materials that's needed for consecration. And if you were to do consecration according to the Han Buddhism tradition, it's rather simple. The Tibetan tradition is a little bit more complex. But all you need is to get some mantra and the things that needed to be put inside, such as fragrance and amrita and so on. Some said that there are the paper that's used for consecration is not so clean, but I think you definitely need to be more careful about that. Everything in the consecration process has to be very clean. One thing you need to pay attention to is that you should not put the nails or hair or clothing of a teacher inside of the consecration. It's not really beneficial for the guru. Phuntsok Rinpoche taught on that before as well. I really hope that for those of you who can actually study how to do consecration, you should teach it to others if you know how to. There are painters nowadays who are really good at painting the Buddha statues, but they have never really cultivated or trained any disciples. Then it will be really sad if you die and your skill and your tradition is just going to be lost because there's no one to inherit your painting style and your painting skills. Similarly, to a teacher, if you were not able to cultivate disciples that continues this lineage, then it would be really sad for that lineage to disappear. Therefore, if you have any skills, such as you know how to consecrate the statues, you should definitely pass it on. There are people nowadays kept on saying, this is the secret of business, this is the secret of the skill. They don't really want to share it, or they have some kind of a secret contract with their partners, but not sharing with others. They want to keep those knowledge to themselves, but not want to pass it on to others. But I think as Mahayana practitioners, we definitely need to learn how to share. And then it says that if there are women who are unhappy with the female form, they feel that this female form is not likable and they don't want it, they're not happy with this female form, they should wholeheartedly make offering to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's paintings or statues daily. It could be statues made of gold or silver or other materials. Also, they should often make offerings of incense, flowers, food, fabrics, prayer banners, money and jewels, and different types of treasures, and so on, to make offerings to this statue or image. Then, after the end of these virtuous women's present lives, for billions of kalpas, they will not even be reborn into worlds that have women, much less be reborn as women themselves. The only exception is if, out of their compassion to deliver sentient beings, they choose to take female form again. Over here, it talks about how there are female who don't want to have this female form. According to some sutras, it says that there are females who feel that they have lots of afflictions that's stronger than men, such as anger and greed and jealousy. Or maybe the female feel that their physical form is very different than the males. Also, they have to suffer through pregnancy and lots of physical illness. In such a way, they don't like this female form. They feel that having a female body just takes too much effort, and it is not a form that they want to take again in the next lifetime, and they really admire a male's form. They feel the male's form is much more free. Also, from the history's point of view, in different countries throughout history, there is great inequality of men and women, both in the West and the East. In everywhere across the globe, I've been to Africa or Europe and American countries, I see that happening everywhere, where people would place great importance or they take men more seriously than women. Under this kind of social ruling, then women do not really have lots of freedom. There are situations like such. In the past, when it was agricultural society, when growing crops was more of the way of bringing bread, winning bread, and so on, in such a way, men would work in the fields and women would take care of the children, and then the men would have more power. But nowadays, we're in the business era where if you have ability, if you're very smart, then of course we see lots of the big boss are women. and they really manage men very well. Of course, it doesn't mean that all women are like such. As we said earlier, if there are women who want to liberate sentient beings as female, there are bodhisattvas who want to take the form of a beautiful women's form to liberate sentient beings. They will be reborn as a woman's form still, according to the Ksitigarbha Tantra, where it says that females such as Tara and Dakinis and female bodhisattvas, they would use the female form to let the sentient beings to have a sense of happiness or to enjoy the female form. Of course, we live in a different society nowadays. The aesthetics are very different. In the previous time, during my time, most of the people would like men who are quite macho. They have lots of muscles. That's the kind of aesthetic during the 70s. But nowadays, I think the aesthetics has definitely changed. And people really like those young, pretty boys. So the aesthetics and the values are very different nowadays. Maybe it has something to do with the change of time as well. There are nowadays, the aesthetics are that you can't really differentiate if that person is a man or a woman. I think it's really because of the times different. Anyhow, with the blessings and power of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, if one were to make such kind of aspiration of not having the female form again, then this person, for billions of kalpas, they would not be reborn as a woman themselves. Otherwise, by the virtue of their sincere offering to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and its associated meritorious power for billions of kalpas, they will never be reborn in female form. Moreover, if there are women who are unhappy with their ugly appearance or are afflicted with many illnesses, they should wholeheartedly gaze upon and pay homage to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. I think there are times women really dislike their form because it's full of illness as well. There's a teaching, there's a sutra, it's called the Buddha's teaching on transforming female's body, where it talks about the physical, biological differences between women and men, including the body has nests of insects. Of course, not all women, but there are women who would have emotional swings here and then, now and then, and I think that's very different than males, because even little bit of even some little things could trigger them, and they would never talk to you again, and they may feel themselves that this is something really big and really hurted her, but I think really there are no intention or there's no harm that's intended to hurt her at all. So sometimes I wonder if it's because of the nests of the so-called insects or things that's working inside the female body. There are women who would have this kind of emotional swings some of the days during the month, and some Buddhist practitioners also are like that. Sometimes I wonder why this person's very good at study and contemplation, but all of a sudden completely changed to someone else, something else. And I think male also experience that sometimes as well, but in terms of the percentage, I personally feel female would be more volatile in terms of their mood than men. In my 30 years of management, since I have to manage a lot, I myself, I have to be more aware when I'm talking to female, because I'm a little bit afraid of female. When I'm talking to the females, I have to be very careful. For example, if there are 3 females coming towards me, I have to be very careful with my gaze, otherwise they may feel hurt. But in front of male, I don't really have to care so much. I can say whatever I want to say. Of course, we're monastics. Usually we don't need to deal with jealousy and lots of the small emotions and so on. But in general, we can see there are people who are more volatile in terms of their mood, in terms of their action, for no reason. Sometimes they would stop keeping in touch with people, including me or other teachers, or they would leave certain groups. But when that happens, I think there's really nothing to do, because everyone has their own karma. Of course, I cannot generalize it. There are the more sturdy ones, and there are people who are more volatile. But I have to say that the female, they're a little bit more volatile. Of course, I cannot say too much about the shortcomings of female, because according to the Samaya vows of Mantrayana teachings, of Tantrayana teachings, slandering the female would be breaking the root vow of Samaya vows. The Buddha said that all sentient beings have the Buddha nature. This is everyone's all wonderful. They all have Buddha nature. But in terms of the manifestation, I think there are different manifestations. Additionally, if the women they dislike their ugly appearance or are afflicted with many illness, they should wholeheartedly gaze upon and pay homage to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, even if they only pay sincere respect for about the time it takes to eat a meal. They will always be reborn with dignified appearance, without any deformities, for millions of kalpas. If these ugly women do not dislike the female form, then for millions of kalpas they will be reborn to as princess, queens, or daughters of honored families, or daughters of noble ones. They will be reborn as beautiful as a beautiful female form in good families, and they will also be born with dignified appearance without any physical deformity. These blessings are the result of paying sincere homage to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. So if you want to have a dignified appearance, if you want to look beautiful, then we should definitely supplicate to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. You don't need to go through the plastic surgery, you don't need to do makeup every day. Then you should actually supplicate to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, saying, please let me become more dignified, more beautiful, and then look into the mirror and check if you've already become more beautiful. If you keep on supplicating, then eventually Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva will fulfill your wishes, and eventually you will be able to attain this dignified appearance. So for those of people who dislike the form, then you can supplicate to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. We should stop here today.
Sunum dai tamche zigba nyen tona nimbe jana panshe jirga nanchi ralong chiba chibum sunen joa joa